Alright, we're back, and so is this car for paint. We've already started bolting a bunch of stuff to it. Shane has been hard at work here. We have all kinds of stuff going on. We got the electronics mounted. We have the shifter stuff happening here. Steering columns in, seats in, fuel tanks in, fire suppression is all plumbed. There, we got the engine is bolted in for good. Started mocking up these turbos. Speccing out all of the plumbing that we're going to order from XRP. Yeah, so we're making some good progress, and I got to work on the front of this car, and we're going to start bolting suspension to it also. Gold!
Gold calipers!
Next thing we're going to do here is build out the front end. So we're going to build a little structure here, like a substructure that comes out, and that'll hold the intercooler, hood pin stalks, and then a crash bar will then bolt to that. So we're going to take some measurements and start framing that out once we get the fenders and the front bumper on to line it all up. After taking some measurements, I got all my pieces cut out to make that front structure. We are going to use this, so it's thin wall tubing, and what we do is we stack it, and it's actually very rigid because it ends up having like a doubly thick beam down the center of it. So it's lightweight because it's thin wall, but it's also very rigid, very strong, being that it's two stacked pieces. Just cut it out of some long length of tubing here on our trusty old LS 1600, and we've had this thing a long time, and it actually lived a really hard life before we even got to it. Still kicking though. Now we're just going to tack all these tubes together, make sure we get them all squared up, and then start kind of building out the frame on the bench here a little bit. Got my structure all squared up and welded on there. Next move will be to finish welding it out and try and do all that on the car so it's bolted on, kind of treat the car as a fixture. And we're going to add some plates here to bolt the actual crash bar too as well. We're getting used to using our new Koike CNC plasma cutter, and we can use it to make basic things like these crash bar mounting plates. So I'm going to make two, and those are the ones that the tube are going to go in, and then those are the ones that are going to get welded to the structure on the front of the car. So I've got them all drawn up, very basic, in this software here. And then all these extra lines here that you see, the little circle, semicircles and all, are the cut points, lead ins, lead outs, and the tool paths. So let's watch this thing work. There we have our plates. Easy as that. So see, I've got my holes drilled here in the front, and those are to clear the nuts that go on the back of this plate. So this whole plate's going to get welded in. I welded nuts to the back of it, and that whole plate will get welded in there, so that the crash bar can then bolt to that. So if you'll notice here, I welded this tube on to the plate offset inboard a lot. And one of the reasons that I did that was so that I can Use the intercooler brackets that came with it. The width, if I would have made this any wider, I would have had to make new brackets. So I offset it inboard, but also this gives a little more tire clearance on this side. It's something you can never have enough of in a drift car, so we get a little more tire clearance. And so because I'm not using all that plate, I'm going to put a little gusset here. And I made these actually out of tubing, so it's kind of a unique little gusset there. And I'm just going to weld that on, and that'll give a little added strength. Keep it tied in. You know, if it does get hit up in this corner, which is where it would get hit, this will kind of, you know, give us a little more weld surface area to keep it tied in. Got my crash bar plates tack welded on, so I'm going to weld them out, and then I'm going to weld out these inside seams, and then tack on and weld those little round gussets I just showed you. Got my crash bar plates tack welded on, so I'm going to weld them out, and then I'm going to weld out these inside seams, and then tack on and weld those little round gussets I just showed you. This substructure bolted right in, luckily, and it allowed me to then start fitting the rest of the body panels. I got the headlights in and the front bumper on. It's held up with these lift tables so that I can like lift one side independently of the other to try and level it. And we got it all level. So we use this factory headlight tab, and then these little, it has like these posts that hold it in here in the side. That's factory too, and these aftermarket fenders have that provision, but they don't have anything here, so that's one bracket that I make. And funny thing is, I had a 5-year-old template in our drawer of templates, which was pretty cool. And it wasn't exact because the square tube front I did on one of the older cars, you know, the angle was just off a little bit, but it was a good little head start, so that was nice. Here are the brackets all cut out, and I'm just going to weld them up now, punch some holes in them. And I sank some rib nuts into this substructure, and then one in there, and we have some headlight brackets, just like that. Nice and sturdy. I did not continue the gusset all the way up in an effort to keep the headlight from breaking. I figured it would just bend this tab here, like the part there where I did not leave, or I did not do a gusset. But I still wanted it to be rigid. I don't want the headlight to flex too much, so only gusseted most of that. And the substructure is all done, except for the hood pin stalks that'll come up here. That's all for this one as we finish up the front end. Next video will be plumbing and miscellaneous assembly.